What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the VSO Gun Channel. Thanks for joining us here today. It is excellent to have you here as always. Thank you for watching. If you guys remember back, say, a month or so ago, I did a video on my weirdest gun that I own, and that is the Henry Axe. And today we're talking about one of the sillier guns in my collection, the Henry Axe. If you want to know more about that gun and its capabilities, I'll have a link in the description box down below where you guys can hop over and see that after you finish this one. And I'll be honest in saying that I had an ulterior motive in acquiring that gun, and that is that I wanted a sawed-off shotgun. So, and realistically speaking though, I had an ulterior motive in that as well, in that I wanted to do a video on the EForm 1 process, or the process by which a citizen can legally manufacture a sawed-off shotgun, or a short-barreled shotgun as the legal term actually is. And that's what this is. So I basically acquired a Henry Axe and then went through the process as a citizen, not as an SOT, so that I could basically walk through the process of the ins and outs of that process, because there were lots of questions in my mind, having never done one as a citizen before. And I talked to some other friends that had similar questions that I didn't even think of. Now, first, what we're going to do though, is we're going to hop in to the different things that I did to this gun, essentially to turn it into this short-barreled shotgun that we have going on here. And then we'll hop into that Form 1 process, the expose on it, and then we'll shoot some fruit. But of course, before we can do that, we absolutely have to make sure that this thing functions, because this whole process required me to take the thing apart. So I've just got a couple rounds here. We're gonna shove in here Henry's side gate loader, and let's see if she runs. I would say functional. All right, so let's talk about my guy here. And essentially, as I stated previously, this was started life as a Henry Axe, which is a firearm, not a pistol, not a shotgun, not a short-barreled shotgun, not a short-barreled rifle, etc., etc., etc. Kind of funky gun, but to convert it to a short-barreled rifle, we went through the Form 1 process, which we'll cover here in a few minutes. Stay tuned for it. It can also be found marked in the description box down below for the timestamps if that's something that you're interested in. Essentially, what we did is, after completion of the Form 1, and we received it back as a approved form, I went through and did some stuff to it. Obviously, I added a stock to it, and this is the same stock that was produced specifically for the Henry X, which is the threaded barrel 4570 and other calibers, essentially, that Henry did for their side gate loaders. Very cool gun. Full video on that in the description box down below if you're interested in shooting some full powered ammunition through a threaded lever gun. Very, very cool. And then from there, you'll notice that we have some aluminum here, and this is the Midwest Industries Henry rail. This is actually the exact same rail that came off of my 4570. It installs the exact same way. If you want to see a video on how that whole thing works, I'll have it linked in the description box down below, where you can find a video on the Henry 4570 rail from Midwest Industries. And essentially what that does is it gives us M-LOK capacity all the way around the thing, and it's fairly easy to install once you get the handguards off. It's pretty self-explanatory at that part. The hard part is getting the handguards off. I basically used the Sawzall this time because I had no intentions of saving the wood whatsoever, having learned from my mistakes last time. To round out the gun, I went ahead and added some excess big dot sights there. My go-to sights for things like shotguns. I think have a full video on how these install. It gives us both the photoluminescent circle on the front as well as a tritium vial should we need it. So it is definitely a very cool low light sight. Now this gun is drilled and tapped for scope base there if you want to put something like that on there. I didn't think that was necessary because I went ahead and put the night sights on it already, and I kind of prefer my shotguns without optics on it. But if that's something you guys would like to see and see what this thing can do possibly with some slugs, then maybe that's something that we'll do in the future. Sound off in the comment sections down below. So while I have you guys here, I thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about something that came up in one of our previous videos, especially because it's a safety hazard. So before we go to one of the next segments, I thought we would address it. And the question in the last video that we did on the Henry Axe was, can you shoot 45 LC through this gun? And my answer right off the bat is I don't think so. I don't think that that is something that you should be doing, and is, I believe, a safety hazard. And here's why. There's some information out there on the internet that'll say that you can shoot 45 LC out of a 410 or 410 out of 45 LC. I forget which way it goes, but I would avoid it, guys, and here's why. So this gun, in this configuration, definitely cannot do it. And that's because this one has a full choke installed. Now, I looked up the diameter of a cylinder bore choke, which is as wide as it gets for a 410, and the diameter of a 45 LC projectile. And if you do the math to millimeters, it is a full millimeter difference, as in the 45 LC projectile is a full millimeter bigger than the bore of a 410 shotgun with a cylinder bore choke. To me, that's a no-go. Your mileage may vary. There may be some people who want to go out there and try it, but I'm telling you that that's really just not a good idea. At minimum, I feel like that will damage this gun, or any other 410 for that matter, that has a cylinder bore choke. Maybe there are some that don't have chokes that may be a little bit wider at the front. Again, I'm not well versed in all the different configurations of 410 shotguns out there, but I'm going to tell you that if it's bored as a 410, it's probably really not a very good idea to be shooting 45 LC out of it. So let's talk about that Form 1 process now. So first thing, again, never done this as an individual before. Number two, never used EForms to submit a Form 1. I have done a paper Form 1 previously, so I have some semblance of what kind of information needs to go in the form, but I didn't do any research on the internet on the EForm system because I specifically wanted to go in and see how challenging the EForm 1 was to do. I have done other things in EForms previously as an SOT, but never Form 1. And I did that on purpose because I wanted to give you guys my impressions on how difficult it was to do. And I would say confidently that it's pretty easy. And since filling it out, I have since done some research on the internet, and there's a really good video by Capital Armory, I'll have it linked in the description box down below, that walks you through the process through a trust.
In this video, we're going to take a look at filing a Form 1 via the e-file system using a trust to make a short barrel rifle.
And basically what I thought is like, wow, that's really well done. We're going to basically use that video as a step-by-step guide if you have any problems, and basically I'll go over all the things that are a little bit different for an individual, as well as any pitfalls that you might run into in the process. The reason I'm suggesting that you do it as an individual is timeline. So presumably one responsible person on the form means less time in the processing for the Form 1. Mine came back in a few weeks. If you're looking for similar timelines on your Form 1, then you want to submit it as an individual. Speaking of which, as an individual, the Form 532023, which is the responsible person's form, you will not have to submit as an individual. That is for individual responsible persons associated with a trust, and those would need to be filled out individually for each of the individual persons. You don't have to submit that as an individual. You knew it was coming. There will be a section where you have to put in all of your information. Social security number, citizenship status, place of birth, date of birth, whether you've ever had a positive STD test. Wait a minute, that's something else. But anyway, in that section, you'll have to upload your passport photo. You don't need to super stress about this. This is, as long as it meets the photo requirements, you can take it with your smartphone. You don't need to stress about it because they even thought that that was okay. So I do suggest, as you can see, that you put your camera on square mode on your smartphone, because otherwise you get a distorted figure. But anyway, they accepted it, so it's clearly not that important as long as they can tell that it's you. Moving on, Section 7 is electronic documents. As an individual, you should have no electronic documents to add. This is where, for instance, you would upload your trust if you were doing this as a trust. So Section 7 is a skip. When you're almost to the end, you'll see a certify and a pay button. You want to pay at time with a credit card number. That will also expedite the process so that the payment's already there when the agent goes through to review your form, essentially speeding the whole process up. They don't have to run any of that stuff down. Pay with a credit card right away. Again, unconstitutional tax, but this is the system that we're working with here. After submitting the form, you should receive an email that essentially is going to give you a status update on your form, telling you that it's been submitted. It's also how you're going to receive notifications that the status of your form has changed. Like literally, that's how I found out mine was approved, is I got an email. In that initial email, there should be attachments. And those attachments, one of them is your cover letter that is going to go with your fingerprint cards in an envelope to the address that they told you, and you're going to mail that to them. They're going to attach it to your form during the approval process. Notice that I said should, and that brings me to some of our pitfalls. First off, it's a government website, which you can tell that they spent about $10 million on it, which really what that boils down to is that the director's half-bastard cousin put it together in his garage with a dial-up connection for half a can of Copenhagen and a 6-pack Busch Light. But in all seriousness, the website is fairly poor as far as government websites are concerned, and it crashes a lot. It is not compatible with Google Chrome. It will increase your crash rate. It is down periodically for maintenance, especially on Wednesdays. So keep that in mind when you're trying to do this sort of thing, that although I was able to accomplish my form on Google Chrome, I have a really good internet connection, and if you don't have one, it may cause some problems. You may want to hop over to Internet Explorer if that's even still installed on your computer. That email that I mentioned earlier may not be formatted in such a way that it'll display properly on your smartphone. In fact, my smartphone, I got the confirmation email. I did not get any attachments with it. So that was a problem. If you don't have it properly displaying on your smartphone, then you have to go back into EForms, look for the supplemental documents that they have uploaded, and one of those will be your cover letter that you can print out and then submit that way via the process that I previously mentioned. I do suggest that you have your fingerprint cards done in advance, because you do have a finite window to get this done, or they will disapprove your form. Now, don't stress, people. If you screw any of this up, you get a mulligan. Essentially, unlimited mulligans, really. If you screw it up, which I did because I did not get the initial email properly, it didn't display on my phone properly, so I didn't get the attachments, I missed the window. They essentially refund your money, and you just have to start the process over. All you lost was some time, depending on how much that's worth to you. And as promised, let's shoot some fruit. We're going to be shooting that stuff with these Fiocchi Exacta target loads. These are 410, 2.5 inch, 7.5 shot, 1250 feet per second. I'm going to cut one of these things open so you guys can see it. But what's interesting to me is I've never seen a low brass 410 round before. So we're going to see how these things operate in the gun here. Well, there you guys have it. We accomplished all the goals. We talked about the Form 1 process. We talked about the ultimate 410 short-barreled shotgun. And we shot some fruit. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys found it interesting and informative, then please smash that subscribe button down below. Pass it around, tell all your friends. And hopefully, again, this can be an informational video for anybody who's looking to dispel the myths associated with the Form 1 process. It is not as hard as your mind makes it out to be. And again, thank you for watching. Hopefully we'll see you on another video here at the VSO Gun Channel. Wait for that black helicopter to go by. Hi. Have I ever told you guys I hate bananas? Terrible for your test.